We started on this journey really from the time I became superintendent. And I did not come to this community saying that I have a plan. I had a lot of strong thoughts, I had ideas, but I made a commitment not to have the plan, but to have a commitment to listen and to learn. And reached out to numerous members of the community, now well over 475 different conversations with different stakeholders, many community groups, visiting each and every school, talking to our principals, our teachers, our support staff, parents, students, always asking the question, where are we strong? Where do we have areas we can improve? What are opportunities, things that maybe we're doing really well? And then what are threats that we have to be aware of? And then really bringing those information and ideas together. In October, our Board of Trustees cemented and voted on the 5 goals that really are the architecture and foundation of our evolving strategic plan. And then in November, I presented to the board my findings on my first 100 days in the community. And that's where we really started the initial launch of our strategic plan. So the strategic plan is going to be our pathway forward. It is going to help define what does it mean to be the premier school district in Texas. How do we measure that? And then what are the initiatives and the strategies that will help ensure that we are educating every single child in Montgomery ISD to the very best of our ability, and that they walk across the stage and they get a diploma that really means that they're ready to go on to college without having to have any remediation, that they're ready to go right into the world of work, maybe even with a certification from our school district, or really ready to go into the military and be prepared. That's what our commitment has to be. So those 5 goals start off with academic achievement. It is how we're going to provide a superior premier education to every single elementary, middle, and high school student. And again, that graduation diploma really means that they're prepared and ready for what comes next. Our second goal is around school safety. It is our commitment to keep every single student safe, every employee of Montgomery ISD safe, both physically and social emotionally. And there is lots of different things that constantly challenge schools in that, and not the least of which is a pandemic that we're also having to be mindful of as we think about safety for our students and staff. The third goal is around efficient and effective operations. The community gives us resources to educate our students. The state gives us resources. And we have to use every single dollar, every single quarter, dime, penny to make sure that we are transparent with how we're spending those dollars, and that they are going to the classroom, and that we are being effective and efficient, and we must do that. Goal 4 is around our human capital. It is how we attract, recruit, retain, and grow great folks. We want to have the very best teachers, the very best employees in our district, and we want to make sure that they don't want to ever leave. We have to make sure that we are doing better with compensation. We know that is a huge driving need in our school district, and it will be a focus of the evolving budget as I get ready to start that process with our CFO, Chris Lynn, ultimately to present to the board. But it's not only about the compensation. It's about making sure that we have professional growth systems so that our employees know that they can get professional development that is unique to their needs, not just one size fits all. That there is career advancement for employees, and that teachers that love teaching and don't necessarily have for some of our principals, it's hard to believe how would you not want to be an administrator, but that there's still professional growth opportunities that don't make them have to come out of the classroom. And then goal 5 is around our commitment around customer service, around communication, and around really creating a culture of care. How do we make sure that we are a public education system, and that we don't ever do this important work without including the public? And part of that is how we do this work on the strategic plan. And so as we've been evolving this work, our focus is how can we get as much community public engagement as possible. We have task forces, I'll introduce them in a second, but we want to have every opportunity to invite the community. Whether you are an employee, whether you're a parent, whether you're just someone that really loves our district and wants it to be better than it was yesterday, and ultimately help us on that pathway to be in the premier, we want to cast a wide net. And so actually it was Dr. Bartlett, one of the folks leading our strategic initiatives, who came up with this concept of an inverted triangle. And so really it's like you're trying to get as much data, information, input, and then you're trying to continually look through and how do we make it align. How do we make sure the initiatives and strategies of each of the goals are aligned? How do we make sure they're aligned to the budget? And then ultimately we come to a really focused plan that will really take us from where we are to where we need to be. We have great committees that have come together to do this important work. It is really important that it is not, as I said, the plan that I came to Montgomery with. I came with a plan to listen and learn, and I've tried to reflect those things in the formation of this work. But for this work to be successful, for this work to be owned and shared by our community, it has to be owned and led by our community. So we have 5 task forces. The first one around academic achievement. Each is led by a direct report to me and one or several of our principals. So our first task force on academic achievement is led by our assistant superintendents, Dwayne McFadden and Wendy Graves, and our director of special education, Meredith Berg, but then also our principals at Montgomery Junior High School, Angie Chapman and Michelle Salter at Stewart Creek Elementary School. Our second goal around school safety is led by our Assistant Superintendent of Many Hats, Dr. Amy Busby, and then also our outstanding principals, Tim Williams and Bobby Morris, who was our Chief Operating Officer, who just retired, but Chief Stephen Phillips are all leading our initiatives in Goal 2 around safety. Goal 3 is led by our CFO, Chris Lynn, and also Dr. Andrea Schur, our principal here in Montgomery, and Courtney Dyer, our principal at Lincoln Elementary School. Goal 4 is led by our Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, Dr. Sonia Lopez, and also in those efforts are Carrie Fitzpatrick at Montgomery Elementary School, and as well as Selby Smith, who is our principal at Madeley Grants Elementary School. And then Goal 5 is our focus around culture, our community of care, customer service, and communications, led by our new Executive Director of Communications, Justin Moreno, as well as our principals, Phil Eaton of Lake Creek High School and Mallory Kirby at Keenan Elementary School. So really great leaders, and every one of these task forces has teachers, support staff, other administrators, parents, students, and community members. And if any of these are committees that you are not part of, and they're really ones that you're passionate about, part of tonight is to invite you to be part of this ongoing work. So the timeline is very aggressive. Tonight we launched the Strategic Plan Town Hall. Over the next several weeks, our committees will continue to get input. There will be a survey that will go out to our employees and community. We'll continue to gather input. We'll have another town hall at the end of February at Lake Creek High School, and then another town hall at our Central Services building at the end of March. As we do this work, we will constantly be reaching out, we'll constantly get input, and we'll constantly be bringing it together and aligning this through the different committees that are led by Justin Moreno, myself, and Dr. Catherine Bartlett at Lone Star Elementary School. And then we have a committee of board members that will also help shape this work. But ultimately, as we do this work, we're also working on the budget, because if we develop a great plan and we don't align it to our budget, then we'll have a great plan that we can't fund, or we'll have a budget not aligned to our strategic plan. So the alignment is really key. But all of it will ultimately culminate in bringing to our Board of Trustees in April the draft plan, and then it will be finalized when we bring them the budget in May, and then they will finalize all of this in June.